Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. This is Daniel here. Hi, Efrain. How are you doing?
Good, Daniel. Good to be with you as always.
Excellent. Wanted to ask you, Efrain, whenever you've taken a career decision, and in your case, you've moved quite a lot, both in terms of roles and geographically, what has been the decision-making factor?
It's a great question. I would say that it's usually a combination of professional aspirations, but also personal commitments as well, in terms of if you are, part of a family and your significant other also happens to work, or if you've got children and their school as well. And, I would say that the short answer is it depends. And I think it's usually a combination of those two things. And it varies throughout your career, right? So I think depending on the life stage you're at, both professionally as well as personally, how much one of those things plays as compared to the other one will vary over time.
Yeah. Whenever I speak with candidates, I want to make sure that on the personal side, it's a move they're aligned on with their significant other, with their kids, that if they have to move, it's actually viable, because I think that ultimately the most important thing when somebody changes jobs is that they're happy with their life in general, right? So that's an important factor. So the guest that we have today has had a very interesting compass when it comes to her career, and you'll see how she's been able to progress while having, as I said, an interesting compass. So this is Paola Peretti. It's somebody that I've known for a long time, and she's worked in the 2-3 relevant industries to this podcast. She's worked in FMCG, for example, at Mars. She's worked in luxury fashion at Moncler, and now in luxury cosmetics at Fresh, which is part of the LVMH group, and where she's the Chief Digital Officer.
My name is Paola Peretti, and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Fresh Beauty, that is a brand as part of the LVMH group, and I'm based in New York City.
Well, thanks for joining us, Paola. I'm really excited to have you here. As we were saying before we went live, our life is full of coincidences. We networked via my headhunting life. Then we coincided on a CPG Guys episode kind of by chance. And here we are again. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Again, it sounds crazy, but when we talked the first time, I was the CDO for Moncler, so really dealing with one of the most iconic and successful fashion brand, luxury brands for the last 5 years. And then we connected again with the CPG Guys, and I was leading back at Mars, where I worked before Moncler, leading the global customer team, trying to reshape and bring in digital and a data-driven mentality to partners like Walmart and Target and Alibaba and Amazon. Sorry, there's a kid. So if you hear some noise, don't worry. There are just kids running by. That's the beauty of co-working spaces in New York. I hope you can hear me. So I was saying, trying to reshape the future and bring a truly omni-channel and customer-driven mindset in working with them. So, and now beauty, leading mainly e-commerce, direct and indirect. E-commerce is 46% of the total business at Fresh. So it's definitely an important component, and leading digital marketing, CRM, and especially the journey toward becoming a truly data-driven organization.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about what Fresh is and what your role is there exactly?
So I love Fresh because, the dream in my career was to be as vertical as possible in my expertise. So I usually say I sit in between data, design, experiences, and dreams. So marketeer, digital sales, and strong IT and data-driven component. And after... again, food and beverage, fashion, major appliances, and I needed a beauty, so it was the perfect path. But also, Fresh has the perfect story. Fresh. Was born in Boston, raised in New York, as we say, 32 years old brand. And the best part of the story is that it was founded in Boston from an Ukrainian wife and Russian husband that moved to Boston with nothing, with the idea of the American dream. And Fresh was born as a store. So it was a store in Boston. Imagine Boston 32 years ago with a store that named Fresh. It was selling organic products and natural, and it was really like all kinds of products from households to beauty. And the vision was already about sustainability, about going back to basics. The founders felt that the US, everything they were using, from basic soaps, products to clean, or products they were drinking, was chemical or not like the best from what you can find in ingredients in nature. And then it was they struggled in finding products. I guess 32 years old, they were all coming from Germany or France or Europe, and so they decided to create their own private label. And Fresh became, from the first soap to again, at the beginning was definitely full household, and now it became the number one brand within the LVMH group for skincare. It's 65% of the business, and the rest is lifestyle, what we call. So we still have fragrances, lip care, body care, hair care. On the other side, it's beautiful. The founders are still there. They are involved. They know every single person. They still hug every single person each time they are around. And it's the family spirit, the sky's the limit, the ability to test and learn fast. With one simple idea, everything starts with one ingredient. We have soy, and then we say, what's the best things to do with soy? And we invented it. They invented it as cleanser, and then it was kombucha, and then black tea from Mauritius. It's really about finding in the world the best ingredients and bring sensoriality to life, but really also with it's like really nurturing the skin and our sensitive by respecting the planet and what we already have in nature. I fell in love with the story, and they're growing. You know me, I like when personally I have the chance to build from the ground up for brands that are not afraid of taking risks and evolve. So that's Fresh.
Well, it's really interesting to hear you describe the company, because it sounds like it's actually like almost like a perfect mix of being very value driven and also very ingredient driven as well, as you were describing, almost like how you think about product development and whatnot. Like those two elements just really playing off of one another in great harmony.
And it is, because I learned that in the end, in my experience in food at Mars, where I learned everything around chocolate and the importance in sourcing ingredients, and in line with even with pet food, when I try as part of my onboarding pet food, and sometimes I was joking with the R&D people at Royal Canin that actually their food is healthier than a lot of the food we eat. And it is, and in the end, there is always a secret ingredient. Even the success behind a successful oven for Electrolux, our mission at Electrolux was all about tasting food, and it's true. Like in the end, you're serving technology for an everyday use to make sure that we are respecting ingredients and nutrition, and I think it's a path in my journey, it's what I believe it's important make this world a better place, but also to get close to the Gen Z generation, because we talk a lot about Gen Z, and for sure they're different. For sure they are ready to fight to make this world a better place, much more than what my generation was able to do. And they will not, I think, accept nothing but good ingredients, sourcing. They will care more, and they are already, about what they're eating, what they're using, what they're consuming. So I think this is a big shift for brand leaders and for retailers in facing the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, it's fascinating to hear you talk about, like you said, you've mentioned all the different companies that you've worked at, and these are obviously, very prominent, well-known, respected brands. I'm curious, just kind of you've alluded to it already in regards to what's kind of the common thread that runs through your time at Mars, your time at Moncler, your time now with Fresh. How would you kind of explain, again, what is that common thread as you've gone from consumer goods to digital? You've worked in appliances, and what's kind of the common theme across all those?
I love this question because there is only one common theme, that is follow your heart. And for me, following my heart was actually following the love of my life. I met Aldo, that is my partner in crime, and again, when we were 19, in first week in college, and he was absolutely career-driven, and he was already full of a lot of answers, like I'm going to do finance, I'm going to travel the world, I'm going to do M&A. And for me, I realized that I was absolutely a value-driven person, and there's nothing bad even in being a career-driven person and in knowing what makes you happy to go to work in the morning. For me, I struggled because it was really value. It was I was in love with brands, I was in love with consumers, I was in love with finance and data, but it was not enough. It was not my driver. The career, the job title was not what was making me happy. It was something else. It was connecting with something bigger. And so the number one choice I had to make, it was, I'm going to follow him, and I'm going to make sure he is successful. So he ended up working 23 years in the same big corporation, Sandvik. He had the career he wanted to have. We had to change 15 houses, 7 cities, 3 continents in 20 plus years. And for me, it was not about having a career. It was following my purpose. So my personal value and my personal purpose was, and still is, having a positive impact on people every day. That's it. So, and I remain true. I set it up when I was 24, thanks to a class that was Finding Your Purpose. That sounded like a very blah, 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 fluffy talking program. Not. Because it's true. In the end, the advice number one is there's nothing wrong in not knowing exactly what you want to do and where you want to be. Just see who you are, ask for help. Now it's much easier to have a coach or someone that can help you finding what your purpose is. And then just remain true to that purpose. And if you see, the path for me was consumer-facing brands. Positive impact, it was that, of course, at the beginning was marketing, but then in the end it became quickly digital marketing, and then e-commerce, and then everything around bringing innovation through data to get closer and to get personalized communication, to get to the one-to-one, because the idea was not an audience to target, but a brand to build that is connecting in a relevant way to each single individual differently but meaningfully. And every day, because I like the speed and I like the idea. And then if you think in beverage, in the wine and spirits industry, I work in media, working for Vogue for 5 years, in Mars, snacking, the Kind bars, the M&Ms, or pet food, entering and serving pets every day. Moncler, that was keep people warm with outwears that you actually are wearing to go to work every day. And as much as beauty, your skincare routine every morning, or appliances, like you definitely are that people they use every day to get to their food. That's it. That's my common path. So the story was a bit long, I'm sorry, but and it's very personal as well, but in the end, that's what it is. Some people, they look at my resume and my path as, oh my gosh, this is crazy, it does not make any sense. And actually for me it does, and that's the most important thing.
So the different geographical changes that you've made in your career were driven also by a personal decision, no? Following your partner in his own career moves, no? But normally we associate that with being a compromise on one's career, but actually you've been able to have a pretty good career, pretty damn good career.
Absolutely,
with
because,
that as well.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Anything is possible. We are the problem and we are the solution. This is another quote that I've been using a lot with my team and the people I work with. There's nothing wrong in saying I'm following my husband because in pursuing his dream. On the other side, even 25 years ago, was this an excuse not to work or not to find my own way to build my own career? No, absolutely not. Was it easy? Maybe not. It takes a lot of perseverance. It takes flexibility because, yes, I had to learn Swedish. Yet I'm now speaking 4 languages fluently. And yes, you have to go outside your comfort zone and adjust. On the other side, it's really about knowing what you want. Sometimes right now I have people asking me, oh, how did you find a job? Oh, I want to move to the US, it's impossible. Oh, I want to work in there, it's impossible. It's not. Again, how do you know if you did not try? And it's not about, for me, in my specific case, it was not about knowing people. It was really about knowing what the value that I wanted to bring to the company. So having a vision on why a brand and why that brand made a perfect case in my path, and reaching out to companies. This is how I found Mars. This is how I found Electrolux or Moncler. It's like we are brands as well. We should have our own value proposition. We should position ourselves properly. We should care about how we show up and be very clear on our strengths and our weaknesses, and also see if we fit within a company journey in a specific moment on time, being honest. So there were jobs that I love that were not aligned with my, again, what I think is the ideal environment for my specific skill sets, and I wanted to help them finding another person instead of just have a job to have a job. So these are overall the advices, and I think we don't do this enough, despite all of the social media, the digital world that makes everything easier.
You know, it's very interesting. Like you said, it's kind of in essence understanding your own value, and I love this concept of like knowing your own brand and thinking about it the same way that you would as a marketer around, you know, a brand that you're leading, and thinking about your own personal career in a similar sort of way. It's your marketing roots are coming through loud and clear. And that's a great segue to, I would love to get in your perspective with regards to, given that you've had this wealth of experience in being able to manage large parts of the business, specifically, for example, like digital and e-com in both an FMCG environment, but also in, high-end apparel, and kind of in essence going across both mass market as well as luxury products. I'm just curious to understand, what have been your observations in regards to the differences between those two different kinds of environments, like from pet food to high-end appliances?
And also, if I can add, it's also going like account management e-commerce versus direct-to-consumer e-commerce, which are like they have some commonalities, like in terms of like data and ultimately you're selling to consumers, but the way that you manage it from the company is very, very different from a commercial standpoint.
Absolutely. Yes. So really both great questions. Main difference between FMCG mass market versus fashion luxury, for example. I should say, number one, the role of creativity. So in fashion and apparel, creativity is embedded in each function, in an everyday level, naturally, and it's good. So it is definitely a positive thing. When I'm saying creativity, I'm not saying just designer preparing the next collection. I'm saying creativity in finding whatever solution to a problem. So there is like a level of openness to try new things, to constantly change. This is almost exciting. So I never felt it this way before, as in fashion, apparel, and luxury, as in all of the other companies I work for. So when you go to a team, no matter if it's supply chain for demand planning, and you say, oh, we can use data and test and learn if there is a correlation in between the forecasting weather and how much we can predict sales for Moncler on the Moncler.com. Wow, yes, let's do it. So cool. Like it's not just the openness to innovation. It's really to create things, to co-create. Contamination is a word that I learned from the CEO and the president and the owner of Moncler, and I love it. It's true. It's contamination. You have creativity, and it's contamination and co-creation, and the level of diversity also that you have is much, much higher. So this is the number one point. The number two is, on top of the role of innovation, the number two, I think, is really brand versus products. And it sounds, it's fascinating, but the level of, for an FMCG, if you work for M&M's, but even for Royal Canin Pet, is all about the brand. Yes, the product over time is improving in quality. Kind, for example, the Kind bars, it's a good combination and one of the first combination of brands and products that are absolutely like true ingredients, kind to your body, kind to the planet, kind to the communities. So rare, I think it was more building huge brands and then massively scale products, but the obsession is the brand. And in fashion, the obsession is the product. Wow, you go crazy for the little small detail, and details matters. And the experience is in store is as important as the product. So yes, the brand, in the end, you're building brand associations, and you're building status and immaterial benefits that are part of the brand archetype. But the product is what you're talking about all day. Like it's in the end, and the product change completely every 6 months. So you are so much into that. Sometimes you have to step back and say, okay, but let's wait a second. What we stand for? With Moncler, we work on the brand kind of like book and values, and sometimes you go so fast that you don't even have time to do it. And so this is the second one. I think the third one is still the level of expectations, because in the end, in FMCG, it's still a very sales-driven organization. And don't get me wrong, it's not that in fashion they don't want to massively sell. On the other side is sales as an outcome. So of a why and what that is completely different, that is really about making like people, again, the status, the material benefit, the dream, and the what is really creating these experiences and creating and delivering the dream. And then the how is the product, and then you have business as an outcome of all of this. In part of what the FMCG is trying to change in getting closer to the customers, in getting closer to the products and shaping the role of the products differently, I think is stop having sales as the what and have product as a how, and the brand is the why, and shift it as an outcome, where the what is should be something bigger and different, like kind. It's the impact on the kind to the planet or kind to communities, and that's what these are the top three differences I see.
What about also the aspect of like in fashion, you're managing your own platform, while as in FMCG, you're managing customers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I know that you've worked with the big ones. I don't know, Walmart, Carrefour,
Absolutely.
you name it, right? Like, and these are like, I know when I recruit people, like these are two different roles and two different skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, in both Moncler, one of the most successful stories from moving in, to be honest, I think less than 10 years, from being an wholesale brand, 70% to retailers, distribution, and 30% D2C, to the exact opposite. So when I joined Moncler, it was already it was in the middle of this shifting the distribution strategy, and I experienced a little of both. So it's not that you don't deal with the Bloomingdale's of the situation, or the Saks Fifth Avenue, or the Macy's. It's just how are you reshifting the role in terms of portfolio optimization, merchandising, and there is still room for both. So I think in fashion it's more creating different collections and serving different customers. Of course, the fact that D2C is growing and you can own not just the experience, but you have the data. So you know excuses. You know who the customers are, what they like, what they're buying, what they are browsing, what they're looking for, expectations. So, and I think luxury. I'm working with the LVMH forward team that is driving this digital mindset and change management forward. We still have a lot to do in terms of humanizing digital, I think, like bringing this, using really data and technology, AI, or to still improve. In FMCG, first, is really shifting from they are the customers, we are the brands, to we are in this together. So it's a partnership where we together serve consumers. And we have to get closer to them. We have to start from that approach. So when mainly one of the key component of the reason why my role was created at the global customer team at Mars, it was really to drive this shift in mindset. So bringing design thinking as a process in a top-to-top with the CEO of Mars and the CEO of Walmart, in sitting together and by starting some consumer insights and really shaping what is the problem we're trying to solve together. And then from there, designing a true collaboration within several areas. It's a still, I think it's something that at Walmart, Doug McMillan, it's one of my heroes. He's succeeding and he's doing it so well. I've seen Walmart changing from when I joined Mars 2015. Walmart was very siloed, even buying for online was different and very separate from the offline, separate warehouses. They were working very much in waterfall. It was a very formal relationship.
Different headquarters even for each business.
Absolutely. And for me, that was online only. It was really, really different words. And now I use the from to now even when I work with the team in launching, improving the pet food online in Mexico for Walmart and Sam's Club. The entire team in Mexico, it was working in agile sprints. It was open to share data. We co-created. We had design thinking, reshaping from redesigning the website, creating an area for pets owner, shaping truly what we were talking all the time. It was pet owners. How can we reach them? How can we engage? How can we better serve them? And then, yes, we had to go down to a contract where you have and merchandising, special initiatives, whatever. But the starting point of the partnership, it was how can we serve them differently online and then omni-channel. So the omni-channel, the agility, the consumer-centric mindset is something I've experienced so fast and so well executed at Tesco already when I was at Electrolux, at Walmart worldwide. Maybe yet not completely in China, but again, China is still, Walmart International was still following in this journey. Definitely a target in the US. And I believe Carrefour is definitely arriving there. Very, very European, but they change. They are working on the data journey, for example, and try to see how to not just monetize it, but really, again, embedded it in the relationship on how to better serve their clients and loyalty. And so it is an important shift. Also for them to realize that in building D2C capabilities, these brands, they are not really competing against them. This was another big shift because my M&Ms, I remember launching my M&Ms in the US and then worldwide. It was perceived as now you're competing with me. No, because if you have a clear value proposition, it was personalized M&Ms for key moments, and it's something that we don't offer anywhere else. Then the people go there because they have a specific need, and we are not competing because yes, it's M&Ms, but it's custom. And similar for
the M&M's direct to consumer is such a great example of like the direct to consumer in CPG. It's we should do a podcast only about that, Paola.
Oh yes, anytime, because it was also launching the small pilot from I think for Royal Canin. I remember the small pilot for selling pet food directly to consumer was perceived as crazy at that time in 2015 and earlier, and now it's I don't know exactly, but possibly it's even 50% of the total business worldwide, because it was subscription based. Again, for me, D2C makes sense if you ask me why you should buy on an M&Ms.com, and if I know the answer. There's still a lot of brands, they struggle, no matter if it's FMCG, to answer these questions. They go because it's fancy, like I go in the metaverse because now it's trendy. I use AI because it's trendy and not because they are truly solving a problem. So my M&Ms for birthday, for customs, for events, for fun presents, for occasions, for moments, it's a clear again, why answer. Pet food, because I put the name of my pet on the packaging and I have subscription base with added service. It's a good reason to do it online and not interfering with retailers. Similar to Kind bars, they have online, you can create your own box by mixing different flavors, something that you cannot do if you go at Whole Foods or Walmart. And so this is really what personally I'm mentioning examples that are successful examples and where and I learned from there. You have to have a strong why. Moncler.com, you don't have no sales, no promotion, because it is a flagship store. You find unique capsules, full assortment. You find the one piece you will never find. And no matter where you are, you have the best of the customer service and the experience. On the other side, how do we differentiate? No sales, no promotion. This is really the key factor to succeed nowadays in working with all categories, working successfully omni-channel with retailers, from my personal experience.
So I would be remiss if we didn't ask you, and you alluded to it already, so I kind of know where your mindset is, and totally is aligned with what you've been describing, given your prior history. What's your perspective with regards, like you said, all the buzz around things like Gen AI and the metaverse from last year? You kind of referenced, like you said, it's really kind of in essence, what is the problem or the challenge that they're trying to address? But I'm curious to get your perspective into, are there certain problems or challenges where you have seen that, like, for example, generative AI is able to, in essence, address a problem more effectively than we have in the past?
Yeah. And so I believe we have to make a difference between the trendy, fancy words like metaverse, that in the end, what does it mean? Nothing. Or even generative AI, that when AI is a 50 years old technology, that was always like machine learning was always there.
Exactly.
So, because we are not doing any favor to, and I'm sure I'm not the only CDO that agrees with me on this, we're not doing any favor to the digital world. It helps if you are Mark Zuckerberg in improving your performance at the stock exchange market. It sets expectations, not clearly, but you are in the end selling more like a dream. I hope, and I'm constantly pushing, even within I love the LVMH group approach overall in this because it's very pragmatical, that we have to distinguish and truly make an effort to define, again, what it is, and the why is important. So for me, the omniverse is important. So how can we really make sure we can imagine a world where we're going to truly merge physical and virtual in a meaningful way to drive value in how we work, in how we share, in how we communicate, and in maybe how we buy things. This makes sense. So, and this you have a full set of use cases, if you want, that a company can seriously envision. The metaverse, when we talk about virtual worlds that are completely virtual, that are happening already, that were there since long time, born from the gaming, they're gonna always be there. Yes, maybe it's they are growing because technology is improving, and there is always an opportunity to be there for a brand and try to have a store just to learn and to get closer to the consumer, just to get closer to these young generations that enjoy more and they are more familiar with this kind of technologies. It's if we say that the why, it's in full respect to really test and learn, and we don't try already to push again or a sales journey, or but to do whatever it's not possible to do maybe in a physical store. So maybe educational or how-to, or there are a lot of areas that I think in education, going back to my experience in living in Sweden, for me the metaverse, no matter if you're a brand, and you absolutely should use the metaverse to bring new generations in enjoying and exploring learnings up to a different level. I will open a company right now creating content for to drive this much further and much better in whatever metaverse. But personally, as CDO, the omniverse is what I like to face differently, especially, again, digital workplace, and maybe exploring the adaptive commerce. So again, how can we adapt in merging these two? Generative AI is really like, when I took a PhD in marketing, and I had a minor in statistics, and I became a quantitativist. So I cry a lot. It was hard to become like a very basic version of a data scientist, but I'm so thankful because I had to immerse myself at that time into AI machine learning. And what I learned is that already Excel is AI, and again, it's not AI that changed. Is that right now we have supercomputers that companies can use and build at a much lower cost, that are accessible, and that can allow AI to learn much faster and to become smarter in the end. Because with user supercomputers, you have all of the data in there. So it's definitely exciting. It's already happening, so it's not news. It's already happening, and it's going to happen and be very cool in what Microsoft announced. I envision the biggest impact in how we work, in really giving, not as much for me replacing people, but bringing more creativity, because AI will always give us the fastest, the best of what we can inject in terms of data and the best outcome, but human can add always a magic touch and a human touch that is absolutely needed and always will. Then I see, of course, in several industries, if we focus first not on making this a business or a way to drive and squeeze profit out of a P&L, but we use it to really make this world a better place in, again, sustainability, in sourcing, in assessing impacts, in giving opportunities to countries that are not developed yet to have access to better medicine, doctors, better conditions, or better education and learnings, then I think the world will benefit from it massively. So it's actually, in terms of my next best move, one of my dreams is to become a chief AI officer, but to really focus on a mission, a company mission that is to improve the quality of life of people in emerging markets, especially. So in there, we can put poverty still, and we see even with climate change how many issues we have. So generative AI can be a big part of the solution. So
I wanted to ask you as well, Paola, like as a CDO, like like working, having this finger on the pulse of what's happening, what are the latest innovations, what's happening in the industry, but still be able to work at a strategic leadership level. Like, how do you manage to do both at the same time?
Yeah. And I have to say, Fresh, especially, I'm very much heads down into execution. And I struggle in the last 18 months a bit in giving myself the space to constantly study. And that's the tricky part. Professor Sonny from Kellogg, that is my mentor, I had the chance, the luxury to work on several papers with him when I was doing research. And he's really one of the first digital and innovation guru and visionary. And once told me that you have to, when you decide to work in this area as a change agent, you have to allocate time to learn. So it was no matter what average, you need to invest 6 hours in learning. So it's really about mapping good sources. It's like I usually say, don't go on Google and Google a few things and then you think you know what generative AI is, because the reality is that, especially right now, you're not gonna get the right information. It's really building a network of trusted leaders that they are doing the heavy lifting of doing the job of reading and analyzing, interviewing. So having the right podcast, having the right blogs, having the right few in social media, not as many, I have to say, and reading few good books, but also visiting. I was in California in July, visiting Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA. I was at Stanford with the LVMH group. Here I had the chance, I'm close to Columbia University, following the professor that is running the incubator for startup, for innovation. It's similar NYU for luxury brands. Like, it's really about making sure that studying 6 hours, talking regularly to the right people, have at least once, twice a year. Before I was visiting Tel Aviv and China. I think Tel Aviv, Palo Alto and China, in the end, if you go once a year, you have China for me was more the Alibaba HQ. Like, you really have the sense of what's going on. Like, sometimes seeing is believing more. So that's the only way. And it takes time. And sometimes I think companies, they don't get that it's part of the job. It comes with a price, because sometimes you have to do it, again, weekends or outside working hours. But on the other side, if you're passionate, this is a job where you don't have a solution. You have thousands, and even the thousands constantly change. So you have to like dealing with this ambiguity. Otherwise, it's not the proper job.
No, but I think it's important what you're saying about allocating X amount of time and boiling it down to learning, basically. Like, we recently had on the podcast Gonzalo Big, who's the CEO of Big, the big things.
I love it.
Yeah. So, I met him at Shop Talk, and he wasn't like presenting, he was actually seeing the latest innovations in the industry, and he's the CEO.
Correct.
So I think that's a great example of actually.
Actually, you mentioned something I always recommend. I was not always successful, but for example, I love Mars because for me, it's still the best company I worked for in my career. It's our first digital business team, we were allowed to bring the Mars board and the leadership team, visiting all of the Silicon Valley, visiting Plug and Play, visiting startups. There was it's really, even the Mars family with Sandeep Dadlani, the former CDO of Mars, they were able to really immerse themselves into even playing with AI and truly understanding, running a design thinking sessions. Like, this is really when a company, starting from the CEO or the founders of the leadership team, they are okay in becoming digital, then nothing can go wrong and nothing will go wrong, because sometimes this is the fastest way to bring value. What I I was used to repeat at Moncler that my job was that they did not need me in 2 to 3 years. And because when I joined, the maturity level was really, e-commerce was fully externalized, there was no digital. And my goal was that they did not need a studio, because it's true, and that's what happened in the end, because it's the entire company should be digital, starting from the leadership. So
yeah. Well, it's funny because like a few years ago, I remember I believed, and a few of us believed, digital marketing per se will disappear. And now you go now, and it practically doesn't exist anymore. You have performance marketing, but that's like a part of the whole marketing space, not like digital marketing per se. Like it's been integrated into mainstream marketing, right? So,
absolutely. And I remember one of the very first article I wrote when I was still during my PhD, so I've been criticized a lot, and of course it's part of the journey when you do that. It was marketing, traditional marketing is death. And it was 2011. And it was really like exactly the point on, yes, guys, it's like it does not exist. Like you should, in the end, we are going to go all around. Omnichannel, for me, it's omnichannel was used the first time from McKinsey on the cover of the quarterly magazine, I guess, was 2008. I'm like, it's not a new word. It's like, so it's really the consumers ended up the simplifying processes, working cross-functional, having few insights, few data in working with the retailers and D2C stores, and then goes back to exactly, there's no traditional and digital, that's one thing. On the other side, it's still part, again, for some companies, they still need to have a focus, and they keep the studio as a role, because of course it's the digital innovation is constantly changing, digital business, you have to shape it properly, and this, it does not mean that the studio's roles goes away, but definitely that the full marketing team, from even supply or innovation and product development, they should become digital. Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that digital still has like a catalyzing, evangelizing function within the companies, which makes sense, and it may do during decades if things continue evolving. There may be a point where it stops evolving and that's not needed anymore. So, Paola, this question that we ask all our guests, it's a very simple but very valuable question, which is, with everything that you've done now during your career, if you had to go back to the beginning, knowing what you know now, what would be the one piece of advice you would give yourself? Only one.
Only one. And I love this question, and I know I will tell Paola, slow down to go faster. Sometimes slow down to go faster. I was running and running for real 300 miles an hour all the time, and I don't regret anything, but I think to a younger myself, like sometimes slow down to then go faster, to learn, to reassess, to absorb, to enjoy even accomplishments. I did not celebrate enough, I think. But in general, slow down to go faster. That's my advice.
This was Paola Peretti, Chief Digital Officer at Fresh Cosmetics, part of the LVMH group. Efrain, what are your key takeaways of this conversation?
It's fascinating to listen to Paola just kind of, in essence, walk us through her career and some of the learnings that she's had at what are pretty diverse places when you think about it, in terms of, for example, her discussion around comparing mass market brands with luxury brands in the fashion world that she's worked in. And just, I was fascinated to hear her perspective around the role of creativity in those two environments, and how in the fashion luxury space, it was something that was just embedded in all parts of the business, not just in terms of like, the product itself, but also in terms of obviously the marketing, but all the other different functions in the business. Whereas in more of a mass market type brand, it requires you to kind of, in essence, expand your thinking a bit to make sure that you're thinking about creativity, not just in the messaging that you have, but also all the other parts of the business.
Yeah, I think that it's creativity also, there's another word to it, which is after a certain point, lack of structure, but also entrepreneurship, no? That I think you have more space to act when you have less structure. Also, I think that the fact of brand versus product was very interesting, wasn't it? And it is true that an FMCG brand matters a lot, while in fashion, ultimately, you're looking for the quality, no?
Yeah, well, I think it's, if you think about it also in terms of like the value of experiences, and you think about, the experience of not just using the product, but also in terms of shopping for the product, all of a sudden those things, when you're thinking about luxury products, like some of the places she's worked at, like Moncler, becomes really, really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is something that if not, you can't charge what Moncler charges for its product, right?
Well, they do a pretty good job in terms of the experience at some of their retail stores, I will say, from having had a chance to go visit a couple of them. Just the one other thing I will mention, and it kind of comes back to what we said kind of in the intro or when we first started talking with her, was just almost like what's her own like personal compass that she uses in regards to making decisions as to, making choices as to, kind of in essence, progress her career. Yeah. It was interesting just to really hear how important values and purpose are to her and making sure that those are aligned with the companies that she chooses to work with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how an event that happened when she was 19, which was meeting her partner, actually shaped her career, because one would think with all the moves she's made and the level that she's got to, well, she must have had to compromise on her personal life. And it's not really true. It's more like she's compromised up to a certain degree on her career, but she's still been able to make the most of it, which I think is really inspiring.
Absolutely. I think she's actually really a great example of somebody who's been able to, from what she shared with us, find the balance of those two things. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thanks, Efrain, again for sitting with me once more to speak, in this case with Paola. And thanks for our listeners as well for tuning in again to the FMCG guys. Remember to recommend this podcast to people in your network. If you want to leave a review at the bottom of your player, that would be amazing as well, because that way we get more visibility to other people in the network and other people can hear our conversation. So thanks again. Have a great day and we'll see you next week. Cheers. Bye.